Don't give us the bird. Don't give us your stinker eye. We try our best, and we're successful. Come watch our show. Bet Rivers sponsors. It's time to start. Enjoy the show.
Hello to everyone. Welcome to Betting Weekly Live. It's Wednesday, the 20th of August with Steve Wyss and Will White. Plenty to discuss on the show today. Champions League qualifying and Leagues Cup over in North America. Will, how are things with you?
Good day to you, Steve. Good day to everyone out there. I'm very well, thanks. Looking forward to today's games. In particular, the Leagues Cup, actually. The Leagues Cup's back tonight. So, looking forward to discussing that in particular. But before that, we've got the Champions League qualifiers, obviously.
Yeah, 4 matches to discuss on the slate. Loads of comments in chat already before we went live today. Byron, always good to see you, but not good to hear that he got smacked around in Champions League yesterday. And he's thanking the Cincinnati Reds and the San Diego Padres. And also Coutinho for Vasco da Gama. Rick Haley, good to see you. Ming Chung, Leslie Mack, Dave Clark, Holo Ahe, Hudson Siriani. Welcome in. I don't think that's a name I've seen on the show before, but he's liking the Kairat spread. That's Celtic against Kairat. We'll be talking about that match very soon. Some notable winners and losers yesterday on the soccer field. And no surprise, most of the money was on the Real Madrid versus Osasuna match. $20,000 on over 5.5 corners. That was a winner at minus 185, but 11,000 on Real Madrid. Team total over 1.5 was sadly a loser. In terms of house specials, there's nothing in the matches today, but once again, I got to remind everyone, the Soccer Profit Boost Pack, log in onto the BetRivers app or betrivers.com each week to receive a Soccer Profit Boost Pack consisting of a live boost and also a parlay profit boost. So do make use of that. And just going through some more comments today. Real Brendan King, good to see you. He's got a Premier League question, which I might just touch on now, actually. But Will, were you involved in that Real Madrid match yesterday? I actually took the +2 on Osasuna, so I was quite pleased with the result. But Real Madrid were quite dominating, I thought.
Yeah, I was on Osasuna +2. I thought they were okay. I thought they were decent. You know, Osasuna are quite gritty, can hang in there. They got the win. And, you know, as the season goes on, I think we'll really see the true strength of Real Madrid, and when Xabi Alonso gets his ideas across to the squad, maybe they've got some strengthening to do, but cutting it pretty fine now. Maybe the squad's done. But yeah, I did see Brendan King's question there about Villa at Brentford. That seems too short to me, to be honest with you. I know Brentford were horrific. They've lost. They've lost at least Mbuemo. They'll probably lose Wissa before that Villa game. But I'm guessing Villa are away there. That looks too short to me if they're away. Obviously, if Villa are at home, that's a big price. But I'm pretty sure that's Villa at Brentford. Too short for me.
Oh, yeah, if Villa were at home, you'd be getting the wheelbarrow out, wouldn't you? But
yeah.
I'll be honest with you, Brendan King. I think that I think Villa are actually a bet this weekend, just simply because there's a chance that Brentford might be at the moment the worst team in the Premier League. You know, they were so poor in that opening game, but I wouldn't actually take them +115. I would go on the -1/4 goal handicap if it was me. But yeah, that sometimes we can overreact to. But if Brentford come with a good home win, good home performance now and surprise everyone, it wouldn't be the biggest shock in the world. But if they were awful again, everyone's going to look back and think, +115 on Villa, we should have got on. That's what happens in the early stages of the season. Chase, good to see you. He's looking for goals in the Leagues Cup. Brad Betts Footy, good to see you as well. Villa fan, Duncan Evans, Effie Brilowski, Blinker God. Dan Roebuck says Real Madrid or Barcelona for La Liga. Will, who you got?
Gotta be.
Isn't it be interesting? I think. I mean, Real Madrid only conceded 2 shots yesterday. It was a different sort of Real Madrid. I do wonder if it might take Xabi Alonso a little bit longer than one season, though, to get them back on the top step in Spain. Gary Davis says Forest to beat Palace. There's going to be a bit of spice in that game, isn't it? The new rivalry developing there, Gary, at the weekend. I don't want to get involved in that game, but I do think Palace will easily win tomorrow in the Europa League. Ropo Silva, Osasuna did play with rather a defensive system, but to only have 2 shots in the entire game, I think, was disappointing from their perspective. Reese Conroy, good to see you as well. Loads of guys in the chat already, Will. Brad Elwinger loves the overreactions to one match. We all love it.
Yeah, I totally agree with. I totally agree with that. That's why I couldn't take Villa at plus 115 away at Brentford. At the end of the day, you got to look like who runs Brentford Football Club. Ultimately Matthew Benham, right? And I don't like betting against Matthew Benham, and I would back him to know more about how to exploit the potential he does have in the squad and maybe add to it more than we do. So I don't want to take him on at slightly higher than plus 100 away from home, and I think pretty average Villa team.
The quote I keep hearing all season about Brentford is Matt Benham done a brilliant job there, well run, very clever, brilliant better, but this gamble on Keith Andrews is one he's going to lose. That's all I keep hearing. Everyone's saying that. It is a strange appointment, I must say.
Yeah.
But one thing we do know with Matt Benham, he won't, if it is clear that it's not working, he will have a backup plan. So let's just see how it goes with Brentford. Let's move into matches today in the Champions League straight away. We'll start with Basel against FC Copenhagen here. Now, in this particular these prices are now plus 138 on Basel, plus 190 on FC Copenhagen. So there's been a bit of a nibble on the Danish champions here. They've had a good run in qualifying FC Copenhagen. They've got stronger and stronger as the rounds have gone on, added to the squad bit by bit. And over the 2 legs, for me, I mean, minus 167 on FC Copenhagen to go through. I would definitely be betting on that. In the first leg, I'm more looking towards goals rather than money line and stuff like that. But I'm interested to see how you rate both teams at the moment. Basel, of course, haven't been champions of Switzerland for quite some time. So, welcome back to the top table for them in the Champions League format. But how are they going to get on, do you think?
Yeah, initially when I looked at this game, I was thinking, wow, Basel looks short here, because I do like Copenhagen. We were bullish on them against Malmo. Well, I was. And they were impressive. I've always kind of quite liked Copenhagen and always thought the Swiss teams are overrated in Europe. But then the more I looked into Basel, what they did last season, the players they brought in, the quotes from the manager, bringing back in Xherdan Shaqiri obviously is huge for them, quite emblematic player for them. And you look at their underlying stats, they really feel like they're back to me. And so I've left the main kind of Asian handicap line. But if you look at Basel's statistics in the last 14 competitive games, 14 have gone over 2.5. And 10 of those have gone over 3.5. Last season, if you examine their goals per game, 3.5 goals per game average in the Swiss Super League. That's high. And, I think Copenhagen are less gung-ho for sure. And we've got the fact that this is a big, big first leg, and those tend to be kind of tighter. Teams tend to be a little bit more defensively minded. But to me, given that Basel are the home team here, I think overs is a massive play. I can't believe the line was 2.25. It's ticking down now towards 2.5. But when I wrote my notes, I was looking at minus 130 and the over 2.25. I think that's massive. And, I kind of tried to look into the type of team Basel are, and it seems like they're a team that's heavily reliant on creativity, wide play, and quick transitions. and their defense is more kind of good enough than elite. And that's the mix you want when you're looking at overs. And I looked at one particular quote from their manager, Fabio Celestini. Earlier this year, he said, "We completely changed the dynamic after last year. The team has developed very well. Also in the game, we're much more dominant now." And the two words that stood out there for me are dynamic and dominance. To me, even though, Copenhagen are probably slightly more methodical and less gung ho, like I said, and the fact that this is a first leg with a lot on the line, given Basel's style and the evidence of 14 out of 14 over 2.5, 10 out of 14 over 3.5, I think 2.25 goals is way too low. And for me, that's a big bet on over.
I've got exactly the same bet. Minus 134 over 2.25 goals with Bet Rivers. You just have to look at the results of Basel this season. Already last week, we had several guys in the chat saying, watch out for Basel with the overs. And they've not been disappointing in that respect. Obviously, FC Copenhagen did draw 0-0 away Malmo in the previous round, but that was, a really close local derby where we had one team who were just looking to defend, really, with Malmo eventually. So that doesn't put me off at all. And I think Copenhagen have really kicked on from that run there. Ahmed Mohammed Ali says, "Good afternoon, guys. Great to have Will back. He's going to be riding with your picks, Will." So that's the first one, Ahmed, there in the bag. Effie Brilovsky's letting both teams score yes at Basel. That's minus 125 with Bet Rivers. I looked at that as well. I think that's a good bet. Brad Bet's foot, he says, Basel cannot defend. It's one of those where I think most of us are on the same sort of page here, really. And MJ is on. We should make this like half a Premier League show some weeks, Will. He's got a few comments about Villa. I think that I'd probably have to wait for another day. But MJ, thank you for putting that up. Aston Villa is a discussion for the Premier League show. Ask Nigel, ask Jack what you think their level is at the moment. They were disappointing week one, I will say. Aston, not a single shot in the first half against Newcastle. That was poor. But they should beat Brentford for me. Crikey, this is still look at the comments. It's still full of Aston Villa talk. Incredible. What have I started here? I've lit a fire, haven't I? Dave Clark says over 2.5 goals at minus 105. Is that still a good bet if you're taking the over 2.5 line instead?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I think so. Probably minus one, play it down to minus 110. I prefer the extra security of the 2.25 line. Obviously, you get half stake refunded if there are 2 goals. And I think minus 130 on that is better than the minus 105. I think generally you're looking at 25, 30 cents for every quarter goal on a total in that range. So, yeah, if we're talking about minus 130, minus 135 on the 2.25, minus 105 sounds about right on the 2.5. It's a bit more aggressive. But yeah, that'd still be a play for me.
Really split with the money here. 72% of the money on the money lines on Basel. 53% of the tickets are on FC Copenhagen. So in terms of money line and those sort of things, the bettors can't really decide. But 89% of the money is on the over-under market. The biggest bet on the game so far is on over 11.5 corners. I wouldn't be surprised if something like a 2-2 draw happened here. Will, I could see that sort of scenario, but we do very much like the overs. Let's move to Celtic Park, which is a really interesting fixture, I think, in terms of the handicaps anyway, and goal line. Celtic minus 1,000 to beat Kairat, the Kazakhstani champions, the only team who have made it this far right from the first qualifying round. There's always one every year that seems to go the distance, and these guys, fair play to them for making it this far. We've got over 3.5 goals at minus 109. I mean, the Celtic handicap on the Asian is now pretty much minus 2.5, minus 2.75. Celtic minus 14.30 to go through. It would be a big, big surprise if Celtic didn't go through, and it would be a massive shock if it didn't win on the night. I'm kind of torn on the handicaps here because part of me does see them winning very, very easily, but at minus 2.75, is that a bet or not?
No, not for me. It's kind of hard to figure out exactly Kairat are. I haven't watched much Kazakh football, but you can probably draw a similar form line with the likes of Astana and their various expeditions and exploits in Europe. And I think they tend to have the reputation for being quite poor travellers. We know Celtic have got very strong home advantage. But both of those teams have played Slovan Bratislava in the last year. And Slovan were put out by Kairat in the last round. And generally speaking, the market implied was that Slovan Bratislava were about a quarter of a goal better than Kairat. And Kairat knocked them out, so maybe you can say they're about the same strength. And then if you compare that with Celtic going off -2 goal favourites last year at home to Slovan Bratislava in the Champions League group stage, you could imply that Kairat should be +2 goals here. And you're looking at +2.5. Like, I mean, if you're saying it's now almost +2 3/4, that's verging on an auto bet for me. 2.5, it's just a lean. But maybe even not a lean, but like if I'm going to be on a side, it's going to be Kairat. I can't be ploughing into Celtic at -2 3/4 goals.
I mean, if we compare it on recent matches for Celtic, like you said, last season against Slovan Bratislava, a match they won 5-1.
Yeah,
they were -1.75 on the Asian handicap there. This season, they were the same handicap at home to St Mirren in the SPL. And a match recently against Falkirk, although it was a cup game, they were -2.75. Now, are the champions of Kazakhstan, sorry, the same level as St Mirren? Now, okay, they've got to travel a long, long way. So that they're not in the same country, but that just seems a little bit disrespectful to them. But at the same time, this has got to be an uncomfortable bet because Celtic could put up a big number here, Will. So this is just your sort of bet, isn't it, really? Right up your street, this is a proper Will White value bet.
Yeah, in a self-masochistic way, it's right up my street, and I'll probably be on it by kickoff. Yeah,
I've got a lean for this game. I probably will end up betting this, and I am going to be betting on Celtic, but in the first half. First half Asian handicap for Celtic -1 at it's -118. So as long as Celtic are winning at halftime, I won't lose anything. That is the way I often play these sort of games where the handicaps are big. I like to look at the first half. But I'm not overly convinced by it because it's still early in the season for Celtic. But really, they should be looking to put them to the sword. I've seen quite a lot of Kairat actually, and they'll come here, they'll try and defend, they'll dig in because in the away leg, the Celtic could actually lose that match. It wouldn't be the biggest shock in the world, would it? So Celtic have got to get a few goals on the board here, but that's a big handicap to cover. Put in the chat. Someone was earlier in the chat had a bit of support for Kairat on the handicap, so someone's certainly agreeing with you there. Brad Betsfoot, you said Rangers got smashed at home yesterday. I'd be honest, I think Club Brugge would beat Celtic over 2 legs, though, Brad, to be honest with you. I think that's just... Rangers are not in great shape at the minute, but Club Brugge are quite a good side. That it doesn't worry me too much that in terms of Scottish football as a whole. Effie Brilowski says Celtic moneyline over 2.5 goals. And Reese, yeah, absolutely. Do hit the like and subscribe button, guys. We need as many of those as we can get. Anyone else liking Kairat in the chat today? Put down me. What price are they actually on the money line, Will? Are they something like 20-1 right now?
They are, yeah, they're 20-1 on the nose. Yeah,
20-1. That would be one of the biggest winners if they were to get the results. Whilst we've got a fair few more in the chat and watching on several platforms now on X, Twitch, and Facebook, as well as YouTube, do sign up to the Betting Weekly newsletter. We've got a special edition of the Insider dropping this Friday. There's going to be all the usual soccer bets, but also a US Open tennis preview. So absolutely, do sign up for free there. Put the link in chat, and there you go. Sacked Meslier goalkeeping coach is here. Welcome in. Afternoon, gents. He likes Copenhagen. Yeah, I would. If I had to pick a Copenhagen or Basel, I would go with with Copenhagen. There, welcome in. Olo Ahe likes Celtic win to 0 at -140. Or he's putting a question mark there. I don't see Kairat scoring. Olo, that's my personal opinion. RHM likes Celtic and under 4.5. That'd be quite a popular bet, I think, overall. But Will is liking that handicap on Kairat, and I wish you the best of luck with that. In terms of the splits, I'm not even sure there's any point reading this out, but it is 98% of the money and 98% of the tickets on Celtic. 52% of the money is on the over line. It's quite high at 3.5. Those are the same stats yesterday, by the way, for Real Madrid Osasuna. And I went against the grain. I went against the chat on here, and that cash, the +2. So, yeah, looking... we could get a 2-0 Celtic win and you're jumping for joy. Really will.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like that's the ideal result for everyone. I wouldn't say I'm strong on the Kairat +2.5, +2 3/4 yet. I might get stronger if the money continues to come for Celtic, but it is uncomfortable, and it's not a team I know very well. I'm just kind of reading through the form lines, and I'm looking at the weight of money. That's one thing I'm definitely looking at. And it seems to me like everybody in the world is on Celtic here, and it's all about timing the Kairat bet if you want to go that way. But it's definitely a lean, yeah.
Okay, let's go to the north of Norway. Bodo Glimt against Sturm Graz. -180 favourites here. Bodo Glimt against the Austrian champions. Over 3.5 goals is knocking on the door of evens for this particular game. When this draw came out, there was a split opinion in Norway of whether they got a good draw or a bad draw. And at the time, it was seen as probably one of the hardest draws they could have got. I actually think Karabag would have been the hardest one for Bodo Glimt. So this is a really big chance for them to finally make the group stage of the Champions League. They've been trying to do this for 4 or 5 years, and they've got one more chance here against Sturm Graz. And Bodo Glimt to -230 to make the Champions League group stage and pocket a £16 million bonus. This first leg here against Sturm Graz, I feel with Bodo Glimt here, they have been learning their lessons year on year. They got them to the Europa League semi-final, and they know they've not just got to win at home, they've got to win big at home. And I think now one big result, one hammer blow result for them here will get them into that group stage, Will. And I personally believe that they will deliver the goods here against Sturm Graz. But I'm interested to hear your opinions on Sturm Graz, because they did kind of cost a few people last season in the Champions League when they went against them. More so on handicaps, I would say. They came up with the odd shock result as well. How good are they? Are they the best team in Austria or not?
No, they're not the best team in Austria. They maybe were at some point last season. It's almost certainly Red Bull Salzburg now. But I do think they're decent opposition. They took 6 points from the group stage in Champions League, all 6 at home. And they had a few decent results away. They held Dortmund 1-0, I believe. Girona 1 or 2-0. Obviously got thumped at Atalanta. They were probably stronger than most people expected. And the market is very, very high on Bodo here, but I think for good reason. If you look at their form in Europa League at home last season, pretty much flawless. They beat Lazio, Olympiacos, Twente, Maccabi Tel Aviv, Besiktas, Porto. Only loss to Karabakh in a game where they completely dominated. The XG was something like 2.5 to 0.5 kind of thing, and they lost 2-1, I think it was. But yeah, home form, formidable, to say the least. And they probably fancy themselves against anyone in this draw at home, maybe bar Benfica. Sturm Graz are not that bad, though, and the market's I think it's got it about right at -1 on the main Asian line. And then the goals are also quite high. I think the main goal line 3, Steve, is that right? I think it
probably
was
a more 3.25, I would say now.
Yeah, so it might even be getting higher. I was trying to look for a way into this game, and where I settled, and it's just a lean because I think, we're not necessarily getting value. It's just more a play on what I fancy to happen. is Bodo to win the match and over 2.5 goals. So that SGP is -120. And I think, that's probably the most likely outcome, is that Bodo win the game and there are over 2.5 goals. I tried to figure out if I wanted to put both teams to score yes in there to boost the price significantly, but I'm not sure Sturm Graz score. I think they do, but I'm not sure of it. But I'm quietly confident we get a Bodo win and over 2.5 goals. And -120, I think it's a pretty fair price. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going in hard here on Bodo Glimt. I always was going to do whatever the odds, really, unless it was something stupid. Yeah, this is one of those where confidence overrules odds for me. As long as the line is somewhat acceptable, and it is acceptable, it's probably fair, like you said. But I think -1 Asian handicap here for Bodo Glimt, -114. And the ladder's coming out on the goals, Bodo Glimt goals. Over 2.5 goals. Someone put it up, I think, on chat. Byron. Plus 130, and I'm going to take the over 3.5 Bodo goals as well, plus 320. Rather that than the bigger handicaps, because they do have a history of conceding goals, even at home. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if Sturm Graz got on the board here. But I think Bodo themselves are very capable of scoring goals. If those who want to take on some goal scorers, Kasper Wartz Ho, -113. Probably a fair price again, but he's been scoring goals for fun this season. A massive price is Jens Petter Hauger at plus 350 at home here, cutting in from the left-hand side. He likes to raise his game for these top fixtures in Europe. But I think you could be looking at something like 3-1-4-1 here to Bodo Glimt. I think they've learned the lesson before. What cost them last season at this stage was they only beat Red Star Belgrade 2-1. That wasn't enough. But what we saw last season is they beat Olympiacos by a much bigger margin, Lazio by a bigger margin. I think they've learned the lesson. They're not just going to take the 1-goal win. They're going to keep pushing for more goals, because a 1-goal lead that's really nervous territory for them to take back to Austria. So I'm going to go for all the comments now. Nish says Bodo will score 3. And Brad Betts Footy. I mean, I don't know exactly what the route will be for Sturm Graz. But it's just an awkward place for everyone to go to, really, the north of Norway, into Bodo. Pretty cold as well compared to the rest of Europe this time of the year. Kittanau, always good to see you. Here in Western Canada, our sports lottery had Paphos at 5. So he put some pizza money on it. There you go. And he had some pizza money on all 3 away teams yesterday. That's a great outcome for you, Kittanau. Is that's a man who likes to swim against the tide, Will Kittanau. What is your dog play today? Let us know. Nico Leo, good to see you. And Effrey's got a lean of under 3.5 goals at Bodo Glimt. As another man who does sometimes like to go against the tide. Shakespeare. Yes, hydration breaks. There you go. He was asking on the comments yesterday, if it's to do with minimum temperatures and stuff like that, they've got to do it after a certain point in the really hot fixtures. So over 2.5 goals and Bodo Glimt win, that would be a bet or a lean for this game for you, Will?
It's a lean, because I just don't think it's necessarily like value. We've discussed this loads of times before, Steve, that like my natural approach is more like based off ratings. But I appreciate that sometimes you just have a feeling, and like you kind of said it yourself, you didn't really care what the odds would be. You'd be backing it. And that's kind of one for me where like, I don't really care that, I'm not necessarily getting value overall at -120. I just think it's more likely than not. And I'm happy to play it, but I can't kind of fully go against my approach and say it's a full play, but it's a lean. And also this Sturm Graz team is I kind of feel like it's being underrated. Like some of their players, I'm just looking through the lineup now. Burving is a Danish under-21 international. Kitiashvili, a Georgian international. Horvat, I think he's been in the Czech squad, I think, at some point. Ehrman, like Max Johnson. Like they're not bad. They are not bad. And it's only a lean for me. But I really hope they win for you and for the chat. Is your main play the -1 then? Is that?
Yeah, the -1 will be my main play here, definitely. I'm glad it's on. I'm glad the odds are acceptable enough for it. If it had been -1.25, then I really would have had to make some decisions. I think I still would have been on it, because I've got a little bit giddy here, I must say. I sometimes do get giddy, but that does work out for me quite a lot as well in the past. I can get
I
burned
love
heavily.
that. I love that terminology, giddy, about a sports bet. I like that.
Yeah, you're right about Sturm Graz. On paper, that's not a bad team. That's why I think they've got to win by a couple of goals here. They can't afford to be going there with just that 1-goal lead or worse, because I think that could be a really nervous second leg for them else. 90% of that money is on Bodo Glimt on the money line. 94% of the over-under money is on the over. Everyone likes getting involved on the overs on Bodo Glimt games in general, don't they? Okay, one more Champions League game to look at. This is a tasty one as well. Fenerbahce, Benfica. Benfica plus 125 favourites away from home. Similar price to what they were at Nice in the previous round, actually. And they won that convincingly 2-0. Fenerbahce plus 190. I'm going to make the argument here that I think Fenerbahce are better than Nice, personally. And with home advantage, I actually am tempted by Jose Mourinho's side here, Fenerbahce. Not on the money line, but more on a draw no bet. But I am very wary of betting against Benfica. Interested to see how you think this match compares to that Nice-Benfica matchup.
Yeah, it's a good form line to compare to. I lent Nice that day. Thankfully, it didn't get to target. Nice plus a quarter, and you're right. Like Benfica have been backed here, and they're almost minus a quarter, which is the line they were away at Nice. And I think you're right in saying that Fenerbahce are better than Nice. So I can't really be on Benfica here. I was originally, when I was thinking about this game and I saw Benfica plus 120 on the Tino bet, I would have been backing to Benfica at that price, but it's moved almost a full quarter of a goal. And that's enough to turn me completely neutral. Thinking about Fenerbahce at home, like they're strong. They're really strong. It's a tough place to go, intimidating environment, all the cliches. I was on Feyenoord plus 1 away at Fenerbahce in the last round. Obviously, they got done 5-2, but if you look at the stats, very equal XG. Feyenoord outshot them. Feyenoord had 54% of possession. I think the score line certainly flattered Fenerbahce. Looking at my ratings model, I think the market's about bang on as well. I would lean overs, but need a better price. It's minus 150-ish, I think, last time I looked. If for whatever reason, some sharp money, some big money came for unders and we got minus 130-ish on over 2.5, would definitely be interested there. And then goal scorer wise, I don't think BetRivers have a shot on target market for this game. They do for all the Leagues Cup games, but we'll get onto those later. In the goal scorer market, Franko Ivanovic at plus 280. Now, I know Pavlidis is the main man. Pavlidis, is the main man for Benfica, but I don't think Ivanovic is that far behind him, and I don't think he should be double the price. So at plus 280, I think it might be worth a little pizza money. But I do see this as quite high octane, potentially high scoring, quite a tasty tie to watch.
Yeah, that match, wasn't it? Bonkers against Feyenoord. End to end, there was a lot of goals, a lot of chances in the game. But, I do think Benfica are better than Feyenoord. Brad Betts Footy says Benfica is very good. Efri Brilovski, Fenerbahce, draw double chance and under 3.5 goals at plus 110. Nish says Fenerbahce will not lose. Simon King, you needed a hydration break after Bodo Karabakh last season. I lost on that game, unsurprisingly. Whenever Bodo don't get the result at home, I'm in trouble. I remember that. Karabakh have definitely improved though in the last 12 months, I'll say that much. And looking like they're going to be in the Champions League group stage, which that's real fun, actually. FGA Football is avoiding this game like the plague. So hard to call. Holo Ahe likes over 2.5 goals, minus 125. FGA Football. If he's pushed, he's going Benfica in both teams to score. And I think that's where the bettors are at here for this game. We're a bit split down the middle. But in terms of the BetRivers Sportsbook, 79% of the money's on Benfica, 55% of the tickets on them, and 77% of the money is on the over, and the market's on the over. So, I would lean Fenerbahce, draw no bet. I looked at the goal scorers as well, and I'm a sucker for this man, John Duran, plus 185 now. He did score in the last round. His minutes have been a bit variable, though. so far this season, which is a little bit puts me off. I've got a feeling that Jose Mourinho's an experienced manager. Don't think they'll lose the game. The odds maybe are about right, though, perhaps.
Steve, the total has just moved, actually, as we've been speaking, quite a lot towards under. And the over is pretty much in range, I think, for me now. Yeah,
minus 139.
Yeah, I think that might just keep ticking up because it looks like a pretty sharp move to me. I think we're going to get the minus 130 on the over, I know Cholo he was saying over 2.5 at minus 125.
You'd be all over that.
At that price. Certainly at that price, I'm betting it, yeah.
We might get that, Champions League final qualifying round. There's going to be a take out there somewhere. Jose Mourinho is going to tighten things up, stuff like that. But he doesn't seem to be tightening it up at Fenerbahce. It's the one place where he's just, let loose of the reins, if you know what I mean. Maybe he's got a bit giddy. A bit like I did earlier. Okay, let's move on now to the Leagues Cup over in North America. We've got obviously a new change of format for this competition, which means we've just got a quarterfinal stage and nothing before that now. Several fixtures. We're going to go through all of them. Inter Miami against Tigres, and this looks close. Well, one of the closest betting heats here. Plus 125 on Inter Miami. Tigres plus 190. Goal lines around about 3.25 for this one. Well, I mean, one of the best teams in MLS against one of the best teams in the Liga MX, surely.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of the new format of this competition has kind of dictated that generally we get the best teams from both leagues. Maybe Puebla would be the exception from Liga MX, but yeah, and well, Galaxy are a bit of a Jekyll and a Hyde, but we'll get onto them later. This is a good tie. The two good teams here, the Inter Miami and Tigres. The big question mark here is Messi. How fit is he? He's questionable. I've got a feeling he maybe comes off the bench, but I don't think he's fully fit. But lots has been made of Inter Miami's star men, their big five, let's say Messi, Suarez, Busquets, Alba, and now Rodrigo de Paul. That's 4 World Cup winners. That's crazy. That is absolutely unprecedented for an MLS team. But at the same time, Tigres also boasts their fair share of talent. They've got quite a few names that European fans will be familiar with. So I can't really get on board with Inter Miami. They're too up and down. Although I do think De Paul has improved them significantly. It's kind of hard to call their games from a win, draw, win or an Asian handicap perspective. What I do like is goals, though, and I don't think that'll surprise anyone. 57 of 77 of last season's games in this competition contained at least 3 goals. And this season, we're at 37 of 55 so far. So what's that? It's around about 2/3, 67% hit rate. The lines are starting to adjust to that. The Bet Rivers traders are starting to figure out that we've been winning on the overs in this competition. And so the line is quite punchy here. 3.25-ish. You can take minus 130 on the over 3, which I think is better personally. I tried to look for a price on over 1.5 second half goals, but there's currently not one at Bet Rivers, but I really, really like that. If anyone can find a bettable price on over 1.5 second half goals. Inter Miami games basically explode in the second half, pretty much every single game. Both of these teams they have far stronger attacking threats than they do defensive solidity. So yeah, over 3, anything around about minus 130, over 1.5 second half goals. And I really like this in the shots on target market, a player at good plus money. Tadeo Allende for Inter Miami. He's plus 116 to have over 0.5 shots on target. And I think given the question marks about Messi, he may be on limited minutes. I think Allende will take more of a kind of more of a role in this game and quite fancy him.
Yeah, I was just looking through the player props market, and of course, one of my favourite ever players does play for Tigres. You might be able to guess who it is.
Gignac.
Yes, absolutely. Now, he doesn't play that much these days, does he? He's had injuries and all sorts, but he did score in this competition recently. He's actually minus 125 for a shot on target. I can't see him starting the game, but that's an insult of a price that is a genuine insult for one of the best strikers that's ever been over there in Liga MX against this defense. He's plus 270 to score. If he comes on the field, I'm going to be all over him. I really am. A brilliant finisher, a brilliant technician against what is a dodgy defense at the best of times. Bradbert's footy, is that correct? Over 2.5 goals in 22 out of 24 matches. I think I lost on a Miami over bet earlier this season. How unlucky was I? If that is correct, that's absurd, actually.
Steve, we do know with certain teams you can stop the freight train. So maybe Inter Miami are on your list of freight train teams.
Every match I watch of Inter Miami, even like the overs ones, I feel like there should be even more goals. Do you know where I'm coming from? It just feels like they're so barnstorming, but even more chances get missed. There's lots of suggestions here of goals, both teams to score over 2.5. Tigres a lot saying that they're actually the better team here. That could be right. FGA Football's going with FC Copenhagen as one of his bets. Not a bad looking pick to me, actually, that one. And just looking through again here now. Although IA agrees with me, if he plays, he agrees there with Gignac. In terms of the money for the game, though, 89% of the money on Inter Miami, 91% of the money on the over-under market is on the over. You can live stream this game on the BetRivers app or on betrivers.com. Next fixture from the League's Cup. Deportivo Toluca against Orlando City. There was a comment very early in chat about this game with a pick. I'll see if I can find it. But this is another fairly close betting heat. Orlando City plus 185, Toluca plus 132. How you see this one? Are we looking at goals again?
Maybe. This game has been played in neutral territory in California, where probably Toluca fans will dominate the turnout. So I think one thing to be aware of, I've got them about the same kind of quality. I think I'm actually quite high on both of these teams relatively. So I think the market's about right on the Asian handicap and the win-tie win. I quite like the overs, but it's the same line as the Inter Miami game, and I just much prefer the goals in the Inter Miami game. So I wouldn't put anyone off, but it's not an official play for me. What is an official play? I really like the shots on target market here for Orlando. In particular, I think it's been mispriced. Marco Pasalic is the most interesting for me for Orlando. Minus 104 to just have one or more shot on target. He averages 1.35 a game this season for Orlando. He's a constant threat. And I wouldn't put anyone off any of Marco Pasalic, Martin Ojeda, Luis Muriel, or even Ramiro Enrique, who probably won't start, but he's big plus money. I think he's plus 140 for a striker. That's insane. And obviously you get your money back if he doesn't start. So I think there are lots of interesting shots on target threats for Orlando, probably goal scorers as well. But I can't split them in terms of who I think is going to win this game. I think they're both good teams.
Yeah, Muriel looked in good form recently. There's a match I watched where he got a hat-trick. Looked like he was in pretty good touch, really, to say the least. I mean, that's a player that's been in several Serie A, La Liga, got a lot of experience, and maybe he could be a hot hand. Plus 240 to score anytime he's the favourite from the Orlando side of things. But they do have a lot of good attackers, like you say. Pesalic or Hader, is it? Or Jada? But Toluca there may well have the crowd with them in that part of America. So there should be a really, really good atmosphere in that fixture. And It was Blinker God who came up with the suggestion very early in the stream for overs in this particular match. Initia's Toluca a win. And he's going both teams to score on over 2.5 goals as well. So is Holo Ahe. Yeah, I mean, not many people like betting unders in this League's Cup. That I do know, Will. I think I've ever seen a single under suggestion whenever anyone's talked about the games. Seattle Sounders are big favourites here against Puebla. minus 225, nearly 5-1. Dogs, the outsider here. Is this going to be a straightforward win?
I don't know. I think Puebla are slightly underrated, but at the same time, I also think Seattle are quite underrated as a team. They've got quite a few absences, especially in forward areas, which makes it quite tricky to call this. I've left it alone from like a supremacy Asian handicap win-tie-win perspective. The goals, obviously, like they're very similar lines, right, in all three of these games. And this is probably, of the three, the one I'd be least confident in going over. Well, of the three we've discussed so far. So, yeah, as Cholo's just said there, don't mind Seattle and over 2.5. That seems pretty solid to me. But I've seen one in the shots on target market that I particularly like. Pedro de la Vega, Seattle, to have a shot on target, plus 130. I think that's ridiculous. Given the injuries to that Seattle front line, I think De La Vega might take quite a prominent role. And can't remember the stats off the top of my head. I think he's something like 0.80 shots on target per 90 in MLS this season. I think he shouldn't be plus money. So that's a solid bet. But also I like Cholo's selection there, actually. Seattle and over 2.5, minus 109 seems pretty solid as well.
Yeah, I mean, they're expected to obviously win the game, Seattle Sounders. Just looking here at some of the comments, Nish says Seattle Sounders will score 2 goals in the game. Brad's got a problem with Miami and you've got to wait for the lineups. I'm guessing that's quite a big thing in MLS in general, Will, because of the turnover of the games. But with Messi, yeah, I mean, he's going to be, if he's in the 11, he's going to move lines, isn't he, by himself? It's simple as that. This is liking Asian goal line on all games as a parlay over 3 Asian goals. Don't know what that would pay. He thinks at least 3 goals. We don't get extra time here, do we, Will? Is it straight to penalty kicks? I think. Yeah, that's the rule here. So it's one of those where, you might, if you really don't fancy yourself on penalties, you might as well go for it in the last 10 minutes, really, because there's no extra time coming your way. Let's look again. Blinker God says Puebla haven't scored in 2 matches. And finally, if you blindly play, Byron's liking that parlay potential as well with the Asian over total. Final match on the card to discuss today. LA Galaxy. Not been going well in MLS for them this season, has it? But they've got a chance here maybe to win some silverware. All eggs into this basket, surely. They're the dog, though. Plus 175 against Pachuca, who were seen in the Club World Cup. Over 2.5 goals for this game. It's a lower goal line, minus 180. Can the Galaxy deliver here, Will? They're surely better than what their MLS league position suggests.
Talent-wise, yes. They're a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde, obviously. Defending current MLS champions and now languishing second bottom of the West in MLS. My ratings are showing a value on Pachuca here, but I'm reticent to take on this LA Galaxy squad in, really the only thing they're playing for this season. When you look at the quality in the squad, the likes of Royce, Peck, Paintsill, they're all pretty good players. And I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I'm leaning Pachuca, definitely leaning Pachuca, but I'm trying to find a different way in. And I think the main thing about LA Galaxy is their defense is absolutely horrific. They've conceded 67 goals in 34 MLS games so far this season. That's insane. I mean, I think it's about 10 worse than second worst in the MLS, and there are some really bad defenses in the MLS. So I think lean Pachuca, but wary of the LA Galaxy threats going forward. So putting all of that together, I like over 3 goals at minus 113, but I also like over 1.5 Pachuca goals at minus 114. So you could double up and bet both of those, in which case you really want Pachuca goals, or you could just bet whichever one you fancy, which will basically boil down to whether you think LA Galaxy will score or how many you think they'll score. Which is my favorite of the two, probably over 3 goals at minus 113. But I do lean over 1.5 Pachuca goals at minus 114. So 2 pretty pretty confident bets in that game.
Yeah, I mean, this Galaxy defense in MLS is horrendous. It is the worst defense. No one's conceded more than them. 55 goals in 26 games is beyond abysmal, isn't it? So, but
Yeah.
you know, obviously they are fighting hard in this tournament. It looks like they can only win shootouts. So yeah, it could be a firecracker of a fixture. Indeed. Will, what is going to be your best bet on the card today? Anywhere?
I've got lots and lots and lots that I like. If we're talking best, let's go through the different cards. Champions League qualification, best bet is over 2.25 in the Bâle Copenhagen game, for sure. Moving on to Leagues Cup, best bet on the main lines is over 3 in Inter Milan Toluca, or over 3 in the LA Galaxy Pachuca. I really like both of those equally. And then, you know, if we include the shots on target bets, I really like them all. Best is probably Marco Pasalic to have a shot on target at -104 for Orlando against Toluca. But I think today is a really strong betting card across the board, really. What about yours? Is yours the over in Bâle as well, then?
Well, I'd say my best bet's got to be Bodo Glimt -1. But I tell you what, best value bet is definitely that Basel over. Because that is, I can tell you now, that is 100% the wrong line. It should be 2.75, I think, as a main goal line. You get in sort of 2.25 at -134, and you know you're not even going to lose your whole stake if only 2 goals are scored in the game, as a worst scenario. So that's got to be the best value bet, I think, of the day for me. But
what I will say is a word of warning now that we're all on it, and it seems like the whole chat's on it as well. We all know how these tend to go, right? So, knock on wood, pray to the gambling gods. One time, we actually get a public play over the line.
Yeah, someone commented on I think it was one of the live shows or maybe even the Premier League show that it's the same thing happens in the US, in Europe, that if everyone backs the same thing, it seems to fail. But let's hope that one does go over the line. Reminder, remember, sign up to the newsletter. Insider on Friday, a brilliant edition coming up. Soccer picks and the US Open tennis preview. We've got shows coming up for the rest of today. We've got Betting Weekly Tennis Live. That is Rory Giuwani and Nigel Seeley. And tomorrow we've got a special show actually at midday Eastern time. That's 5 p.m. in the UK. We've got a reaction draw special for the US Open when it comes out. 3-man team. Nigel, I think it's Nigel, Tim Dennis, and Mitch on the show for that one. Later on, we've got the hardball and fast break show. We've got Doug with Chris and Sarah and Wes on. So the action never stops on that because we win. The very, very best of luck to everyone betting today. There's going to be a lot of bets across the board, I think, Will. Loads of action. It all kicks off in about 3 hours' time with those Champions League qualifiers and then later on in the Leagues Cup. But it was a pleasure as always. I will see you next week, Will, for the second legs of the Champions League. Take care and cash those tickets, yeah?
Have a good one.
See you, everyone. See you tomorrow with James Eastham looking at the Europa League. Take care.